students and teachers, welcome to Playhouse Academy's second anniversary day. My name is Grace, and my kids in school would call me Miss Grace, Miss Grace. And today I'll be talking about something that is relatable to both of us, especially as now classes goes online. You have to accompany the child during school time. It becomes more and more visible to you how your kids are behaving in class, how their friends are behaving in class. But even for offline classes as well, parents can take a peek and take a look at their child and their friends. And it is very normal, very natural for us to feel proud when a child can behave in a nice way. They can be kind to their friends, they can listen well. But but I still do hear parents as well would say, "Oh, how can your child be so kind, so nice and so loving?" I think it's just very natural in us to admire and to wish that a child can grow to be kind, loving, and caring. But what if you encountered this situation instead? I will be showing you a picture and try to imagine how would you feel and what comes to your mind when you see this situation. So there's a child not showing any reactions when their siblings fell down from a bicycle. Or maybe this one when a child, they don't feel any guilty when they pull their friend's hair and their friend started to cry. Would you feel worried? Maybe my child is lacking of empathy, or maybe you start to wonder, would this be a serious problem later on? Would this turn into a serious behavioral problem like bullying? Well, there are studies that shows that empathy contributes significantly to a reduction in various form of violence behavior in a child. And another studies also showed that bullies fails to understand feelings of others, which is what empathy is. So this study does not shows that empathy is the only conditions that contributes to bullying behavior, but it does shows that empathy plays a huge role in reducing violence behavior. and and empathy is also important to build a strong relationship with their peer, whether it's at school or later on in life when they become adult and they start to work professionally. So now that we're in the same page that empathy plays an important role. Now the question is, how can we determine if a child is lacking of empathy? Is it enough to determine a child is lacking of empathy just by looking at them, looking at the situation like we saw earlier? Well, my answer would be no, because empathy is actually a learned behavior. It's actually a learned behavior that they will develop as they grow. So that means that we need to take into consideration different factors like their developmental milestone, their language abilities, their cognitive abilities, their social emotional, and then also their environment, whether they're exposed to practice empathy or not. There are just so many factors. So today, in today's session, we will be looking at what is empathy, and we will start to look at the development of empathy in different stages of the children, in these different stages, different age stages of the child, and then we will also see ways how we can help the children to practice empathy. So, what is empathy? Empathy is the ability of an individual to attend to, understand, and attune to feelings, bodies, and minds of others by directly observing and imagining their emotional states. So, to put it simply, when somebody bang into a glass door, it's not your head that feel the pain, but the fact that you can imagine how painful it is and how moved automatically you just want to make a step to help. That's empathy. So based on this definition of empathy, you can actually break down empathy into different stages, and there are actually 3 stages of empathy. So the first stages is actually affective empathy. Affective empathy is purely emotional. When a child are able to sense the emotion of other and they start to share the response. For example, when one cry, the other cry. You would usually see this in babies. That's called affective empathy. And then cognitive empathy. Cognitive empathy is perspective-taking abilities when you can imagine how would that person feel. So not only, so you don't just follow how they feel, but you also can imagine how that person is feeling, why they're feeling that feeling. So you might not necessarily be crying when that person is crying, but you can say, "Oh, I think if it's me, I would be very sad because it hurts." And you can probably think as well, what can you do to make that person imagining what can make that person feel better. That's called cognitive empathy. And last but not least is compassionate empathy, is basically turning it into an actions, whether it's offering a hand when somebody fell down or offering a tissue when somebody is crying. That's compassionate empathy. So the different stages of empathy correspond to the different development stages of a child. So therefore, let's take a look at how different stages of empathy develop at the different age of a child. Let's start with the age of 0 to 2. So a baby actually learns to read facial and gestural cues. So a baby will put a blanket on their face and then they will pull it down and then they will see people start laughing and they will repeat the same actions. So they actually can see, they can start to observe and see people facial and gestural cues. And a baby actually shows a synchronized response. So a 1 year old actually he was playing with his friend and his friend started to cry and he started to cry as well. He does not know why he's crying, why his friend is crying, and he does not feel the need to actually do something about it, but he just cried because his friend is crying. So they do have affective empathy, but they haven't developed the cognitive and the compassion empathy yet. And a toddler, they already start to observe and imitate adults. For example, an 18 months old a boy, he fell down, and then the teachers come to comfort him. So that can be his template later on when he saw someone fell down. With encouragement and affirmation, they can when they start to imitate the same behavior, this can develop into a cognitive and compassionate empathy. For example, when his friend fell down and then he start to comfort him, you can say thank you for comforting him. So that's called affirming. So that will help them to develop empathy. But for some 2 years old, it is still a struggle to do perspective taking. So, for example, you're telling them you're tired when they've been waiting to play chase me game. I think their needs to run will outweigh their empathetic feelings for their parents and teachers who need break. So it is, but it's still possible with modeling and affirming. When they imitate the model behavior, they can start to slowly show empathetic behavior. What about child that is 3 to 4 years old? So a 3 years old can actually comprehend a connection between emotion and desires. So a 3 years old looking at their friends smiling when she is playing with a kitty, she comments to the teacher, she looks happy petting a kitty. But then suddenly the kitty ran away and her friends start to cry. And then the 3 years old, pat her friends on the shoulder and then she said, "Don't be sad." So based on her comments, we know that she understands, she can comprehend that her friends feel happy when she got what she wants, and she feels sad when she does not get what she wants. However, some 3 years old might not able to respond if they don't share the same feelings and perspective. For example, 3 years old is building a castle, and another 3 years old is running around and then suddenly stomp on the castle. When the teacher asked, she just said, "Oh, I was just taking a little walk on the beach." Yeah. So he did not see herself as destructive. However, at 4 years old, they start to understand emotion fairly well and know that everybody has different emotions. Whereas at the age of 5 and 6, they are more aware of their own emotion and they begin to recognize them in others and in others as well. And their emotional vocabulary has become extensive as well. So with their well-developed language skills, it actually opens up opportunity for discussion, for an in-depth discussion about emotion, which can develop empathy. So you can discuss emotion of book characters or people around them, like friends and family. And then they also start to learn how people feelings through actions, gestures. Basically, they're able to read nonverbal cues. Like for example, when a teacher they start to shift, they become quiet and focused when the class is about to start. Like a silent magic, the children can sit down and then they start to settle down. And at 6 years old, they are able to show a mature level of awareness of others' feelings. For example, 6 years old are able to notice that her friend is not in the mood for class. And she can tell her teachers, I think maybe she is feeling sad because her mommy has to go to hospital. I remember my dad I miss my dad when he went on a trip, and it can be scary when you're left alone. So she display a mature level of awareness of others people feelings, and maybe you can involve them in a discussion of what you can do, like what can we do to help, how would you make that person feel better if you were her. um, Avoid quick fix telling them what to do, but instead involve them in discussion on the solution. What can we do will help them to develop a compassionate empathy. So I have briefly commented on some strategy that can be done to support the development of empathy based on their age and their development milestones. But let me share a few more activities that you can do with your child to help them practice empathy. So first of all, becoming their role model. So if you want your child to understand others, you need to understand them first. So, and if you want them to be able to understand how they feel and express them, you would want to express them as including the negative emotion like sadness and anger, which we tend to mask a lot of times. And also how you respond to their big emotions. Um, you respond to their big emotion and make them feel how you hope they can help other people feel. Then you can play a guess the emotion game. Maybe you can stomp your feet and clench your fist and then ask them to guess what emotion you're feeling. And then you can take turn. For the younger one, you can use storybooks. You can use pictures. That can be another idea as well. And then empathy, I Spy game. So this is another fun game where you can sit in a spot where you can see a lot of people, and then you can take turn to ask how that person is feeling. What can you do to help? You can model it to your child first. I think that boy is very determined to go across the monkey bar, and if I were there, I would cheer him on. So you can do that. And last but not least, you can practice random acts of kindness. So you can involve them in your to practice empathy alongside with you every day. Like for example, when you open a door, you can have your child on your side holding a door for someone, and you can ask, what would that person feel because of what you did? And you can also do a monthly or a yearly thing where you engage in an activity that um, make you that you can engage in an activity like help going to an orphanage, like what our parents care group did last year. I'm sure when the child actually give the gift on that day and see the face, the expression of the child in the panti asuhan receiving the gift, how happy they were, that will stimulate some sort of passion, excitement about helping others in your child's inside your child. So that those are the activity that you can do with your child to practice empathy. So I hope that my sharing can provide an insight to your concern if your child are lacking of empathy, or and what you can do to support them in developing empathy. And if you have any further question, you can feel free to contact me. This is my email. And other than that, I would like to say thank you for your attention.